So here we are on the fourth final day in Las Vegas, and we're talking about recovery. You know, being serious, we should have talked about this on the first day, right? Because you're all identity professionals, yeah? And you all read the book of knowledge. It says from one of the luminaries of the industry that we should all be thinking about recovery at the start of a project. And we need to think about how to do these account recovery processes, okay? This is the gospel of Ian Glazer. And the gospel of Dean Sachs as well. It says that account recovery must meet or exceed the security of the nominal authentication. Okay? So you've got to have something stronger than a passkey to recover a passkey, right? Agree? Okay. So why am I here now? I've spent a lot of my career in microchips and trusted execution environments and secure elements, NFC, blockchains, but I don't like to talk about that much. And one of the things I learnt last year was surprising. One of the other things I do is I'm a mountain bike coach. This is my official mountain biking coaching license, and it's amazing how many people think this is an official government document because it says British Cycling on it. I get away with a lot. And we have a couple of sayings as mountain bike coaches. One of them is copy and steal everything. If you see a good idea, then borrow it, use it. And you learn something from every crash. Now, last year I had a crash in the Alps, and I had an unexpected lesson taught to me, because that's my phone after the crash. It's in a bit of a bad state. I do move fast and break things. So I had some pain, physical pain, and I had some digital pain. That's actually saying a reminder to take my painkillers on that screen. The digital pain came from my bank. So they have this great service. It's an insurance policy. I can get 2 replacement phones per year. And I thought, great, well, I'll just get my replacement phone from the bank. And they have this nice process where they send me an identical phone, and I switch off Find My iPhone and package it up, and the courier delivers me a new phone and takes away the old phone. Wonderful. So it's all reset, taken by the courier. Fire up my new phone with iCloud keychain. It looks exactly like my old phone. It's great. Tap the banking app, and it says, to activate this app, deactivate the app on the old phone. Right. The one that the courier's just taken away. Okay, that's not going to work. I have to call them. Now, I haven't called the bank in 10 years because I really don't like speaking to them very much. And yeah, we go through this process of, you know, what do we need to do? Yeah, we need to activate the app. Okay, right, we're going to need to ask you your telephone banking password. Right, the one that I set 10 years ago, because 10 years prior to that, I'd forgotten the other one. Right, okay, well, I can't remember it. I have no idea. He said, well, 2 letters from your telephone banking password. It's okay, you get 2 guesses. I said, well, I'll give you 2 wrong guesses then. So he goes, okay, we'll find some other way of doing it. Who do you buy your gas from? And I said, I have absolutely no idea. The gas suppliers change every month in the UK because they all go out of business. And besides, my wife sorts out the gas. No idea. He said, well, since you spoke to us 10 years ago, we don't have your voice print on record, so we can't do a biometric voice match, unfortunately. And I thought, have you read the news? Do you know what's happening with voice cloning? Don't switch that thing on, please. So if this lasts for about half an hour just to get the app activated. And this is an insight into the future that we're going to have with passkeys, right? Because with stronger security, what's going to happen when things go wrong, we have to recover. And what's happening is we're undermining the security of passkeys with people in call centers, right? So we've solved one problem, which is phishing, and pushed that down, and then it's just popped up into the call center. And it's the call center people that will start to suffer. They're going to feel a lot of pain. Okay? The call center staff, they are fairly low paid, high turnover, undertrained, doing a job that even experts will struggle with, AI can't cope with and never will fix, right? So think about their job as well. They're also motivated with their KPIs to spend the least amount of time possible doing identity verification. Okay? Their job is to just turn tickets and keep customers happy. So, yeah, what could go wrong, eh? Well, it is already going wrong. You know, you've got attackers with voice clones, deep fakes. There's only fake ID where you can just create any fake identity document you like. We've got SIM swap attacks happening. And, yeah, that's leading to a huge amount of pain for customers and the business. Okay, so that's pain that's happening right now. The future pain is we're going to stuff verifiable credentials, identity proofs, into wallets made of glass. And, yeah, what could go wrong? All of the proofs of my identity are in bits on the floor. How do I prove who I am now to get my identities back on my new device? Right, we're going to have a massive problem here. So, it's all a bit bleak, isn't it, for a Friday? Well, yeah, there goes my demo. So, no, it's okay. It's a one I've broken previously. So I'm going to need your help, if you're willing. Okay, so stand up. Come on, stand up. Come on, everybody. Right, okay. So stay standing if you have a passport document or an identity card that has that yellow symbol, a biometric chip symbol. Stay standing. Okay, so a few of you don't. Yeah, the US passport card does not count, unfortunately. That's not standard. Okay. Stay standing if you know exactly where it is. Oh, wow. You don't know where your passports are. Okay, now I'm worried. Stay standing if you've got it with you. Okay. So we've just identified the international travelers. Okay. And they're flying home today. Okay, so you can be some demo helpers if you may, if you like to. It's completely voluntary. Only you that are standing do this because you need to download an app. The rest of you put your phones away because you'll crash the conference Wi-Fi, okay? So, three apps to choose from. I'd suggest the one that is 11 megabytes, not the one that's 47 or 193, okay? You know, that's certainly going to help. What we're going to do is, there's no better way of learning than by doing, is see what is in your chip of your passport, okay? These apps have been very heavily vetted by the Apple App Store Police and Google Play Store. So what happens is the verification is done completely on the device and your personal information doesn't leave the device. I've tested these in flight mode. They work in flight mode, so they don't send data to a server. It's purely for checking if your document chip still works if you've jumped in the hotel pool with your passport in your pocket. Okay? So you guys that are still standing, take a seat and just follow the instructions on the screen. And when you've got your passport chip data on your phone, just raise your hand and show everybody that you've got it. Okay? So for those of you who aren't doing this, this is what they will see. The first step is always taking a picture of the photo page. And the reason for that is the chip has a code to unlock it that is buried in the machine-readable zone. So you take the code from the machine-readable zone and present that to the chip through the NFC interface, and that gets you access to the chip. Okay? That's basic access control or password authenticated connection establishment two different types of protocols because the chips have evolved over time. So this is a privacy mechanism. It stops people from skimming your passport when you're walking around. You have to have your passport presented. It's consent. You hand it over. The next thing you'll see is your picture is actually in the chip. Your high-res picture that the government have issued your passport with is buried in the chip. And it comes out of the chip the same every time. So it doesn't matter what lighting conditions you've got, movement, reflections, holograms, it's always the same. So if you're going to match against a selfie picture matching against one of these pictures, which one would you choose? The big high-res one in full colour or the small one that's obscured? So it already makes the matching process a lot better. Okay, there can be a fair amount of data in a passport chip. The only mandatory groups are data group 1 and data group 2. So that's generally the information you'd see on the photo page and the photo itself. All of those data groups are hashed, and you have a hash table. So that proves integrity of the data. You can't change it. You can't change a single pixel on the picture without it being detected. Data groups 3 and 4, fingerprints and iris, they're off limits for commercial vendors. They're only for border forces. So we'd never gain access to those and don't want them. So we've got integrity. The next thing is authenticity. So in producing a passport, the government of your country has a signing certificate, a country certificate signing authority, and they authorize document producers to make passports. So they sign the document signer certificate. The document signer certificate signs the hash table in the data groups and of the passport. So now you've got a chain of authenticity of the data that it is from your country of issuance. Okay? So the way they do that, they have private keys stored in hardware security modules in their production lines, and it's all highly secured and well known. Then, if you're lucky and you're European or come from a country that is very forward-thinking, you then have the magic. Now, this is the bit you really need to pay attention to because this is what's going to protect FIDO recovery and passkey recovery. What many people don't know is that the chip contains an operating system. It runs an application. It can respond to challenges that you send it, cryptographic challenges. It's smart. It is a contactless smart card. A pet hate of mine is people calling them RFID chips. RFID chips are for cattle and pets, okay? They are not for passports. These are smart. These are for privacy-deserving human beings, right? So you have a challenge that you can send to the chip and have it signed by the private key stored in a tamper-resistant bit of silicon that you can't extract that key from. There is no command you can send that smart card that says, give me the private key. There's tamper-resistant protections on the chip that you can't invasively attack it and extract the private key. So that's anti-cloning. And if you look at this a bit funny, it kind of looks a bit like a FIDO authenticator. It's doing a similar thing. So we could use this, okay? We use this in two ways, active authentication and chip authentication. Chip authentication is the latest way of doing it, which also establishes a secure tunnel and a one-time key to protect the communication between the chip and whatever is verifying it. So it's something like a FIDO authenticator, but it also carries your photo. So what we've got is, right here, right now, live in Las Vegas, the one and only genuine, untampered document with your high-res photo. It is the OG VC. Can we call it a VeriCred? Because verifiable credentials is a bit of a mouthful. The OG VeriCred, right? Okay, this all seems really easy, yeah? The number of times I've heard people say, NFC is commoditized. I'll just call the NFC API. How hard can it be? Well, yeah, it's pretty hard. First thing, people don't know what the chip can do. So they're completely unaware that this chip that's gone out there in their documents can do this. There's issues of document theft. So you would always want to combine using this technology with a match of the user. So a presentation attack detection system. So a selfie, maybe some liveness. You would always want to do that. There's privacy concerns, and part of these privacy concerns come from people calling the chips RFID chips, and actually some governments rolling out RFID chips in things like that look a bit like passport card type things, right? So that hasn't really helped the perception of NFC. So there are problems in going to be problems in bringing people over to using chips. There's problems in document variants because there's so many different countries around the world that produce these documents, and so many different standards and evolutions and document expiry, that there's a huge fragmented population of documents that you'd need to verify. So you've got to take that into account. The certificate master lists as well of each country, obtaining those is somewhat challenging. And also knowing where the chips are buried, because the chips can be in various different places according to the standard, according to ICAO DOC 9303, 8 different places you can put it. And the American passports are even trickier because they build in an RF shield into the passport, which is a little bit unnecessary, but I guess they had to do that because of the privacy concerns. And then you've got mobile technology. So Android devices have NFC antennas in all kinds of places, and they also fold up in some cases. So you have to know where the antennas are in the phones. There can be about 13 different places. And then you have to take into account that some markets have a huge number of jailbroken phones. So this is a problem that we need to help people to get the phones and the documents together. There's also challenges in trust. What do you trust? Well, you can only trust the mobile if you control it. And since we're dealing with consumer devices, you don't have any control of what the user's done. You need to trust the server. So you need to do the verification on a trusted server to the chip. You want to prevent replay and relay attacks. You certainly don't want to trust a verification result from a hacked mobile that says, yeah, the document checked out, trust me. Then there's data protection, obviously. You know, you're dealing with sensitive personal information. How you protect that once you've got it, and what do you discard? And how do you protect to then rematch at a later time? All the things that you need to think about. So where would you get started? Well, it has already started. If you sat in on Stian's session on Wednesday, you'd know that Bank ID in Norway is already doing this. They are recovering access for people with their document chips. 2 very large banks in the Netherlands doing this already. So instead of having 30-minute phone calls that fundamentally undermine security, they're letting people solve the problem themselves in less than a minute. Okay? How do we roll this out to 1 billion more users? Well, what I see is that chip verification has typically been buried in the sign-up stack, where you do a document check, you do a selfie check, and then you do all of the other things, checking the devices, address documentation, lookups, politically exposed people, AML, KYC, and then it's completely forgotten. So document chip verification is sat in the wrong place. It shouldn't be in the IDV stack that typically protects the front door. It needs to be in the identity fabric that can protect the back door and all of the other really risky lifecycle events that a user is going to have. And By the way, you could also issue a verifiable credential from the witnessing of a document chip scan. So that's another thing that you can do when you've got document chip scanning in the fabric. So this is what I think it would look like. So, as I said, I'm a mountain bike coach. I've done my first aid training. I suggest that everybody does have first aid training. It's really useful because the last time you want to be doing first aid training is when you see somebody on the floor unconscious. Right? You need to know what to do before you get to that situation. So what you could do is you could get all your existing users to enroll their documents before they need to recover. And then you've trained them. They'll know what to do. They've placed the account protection on their account themselves. Yeah? So think of it like first aid training for recovering access to your accounts. You'd want to be very careful as well. You wouldn't want to put this on, say, I don't know, a shopping website recovery. This is probably recovery for your bank or your telco or your employer. Those are the big three, I think, the important services you have in your life. You've already showed your passport or your documents to your employer to get a paycheck. So what's the problem in showing it again when you're locked out? As a bonus, what you could do is remind people when their documents are going to expire, because you know the expiry date of the document. So you could remind them to go and get a new passport, and then you won't have to dash to the passport office before you've got to go on holiday in a panic. And that has happened to a lot of people. So we can recover access in less than a minute, deliver huge amounts of cost savings, and protect users. So you lot with document chips, you can go and check what's in your document chip when you get home with the free apps. We've got a technology that's already deployed to billions of people that could be protecting their passkeys and wallets, that is going to help them defend against account takeover. And account takeover is going to get a lot worse because the attackers are tooled up with AI deepfakes. So what can you do about this? The best thing to do is start asking questions. Start asking questions of your vendors, your identity stack vendors. How can we get chip scanning from you? Simple. If you don't ask, you don't get, right? As users, you all have bank accounts. Why don't you ask your bank, could I do this? Can I set up a protection? Why not? That's what I want. I want my banks to do this for me. I have time for a few questions now, but I also, on my LinkedIn, have made a post just before this session. If you want to connect with me and continue the conversation on LinkedIn and ask the questions there, because there's a lot of you and I probably can't answer them all, please do that. So, any questions?
Are you aware of any SDKs that can do this to integrate into other systems?
Yep. I'm not allowed to make any vendor pitch, so yeah, you could probably guess that there are. Yeah.
I was wondering, is it possible to selectively read data groups? Because I noticed that reading the picture takes time.
So in each session you get all of the data, and it's up to you what you take and what you discard and how you process it. But basically you get the data from the session of the chip, and then data minimization applies. You discard what you don't want to keep.
Yeah, without naming vendors that they can make the identity stack, vendors remain anonymous, what would you be doing in your identity stack to enable this?
Okay, so have a look at some orchestration systems from some vendors that are well known and sponsor this event, and there are some connectors in that orchestration stack.
So you kind of touched on this at the end, right? But you generally want to use this for your bank, not for recovery to some shopping website.
Yeah.
But you can't really prevent a shopping website from going out and implementing something like this, right? They could, and then the user could go use it.
if the shopping website wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of the, DPAs and protecting sensitive data, what I would suggest is that they would use something like a verifiable credential wallet, which would be underpinned by the protection mechanism of the passport. So that's, I think, yeah, banks, M&Os, employers, wallet vendors, or wallet suppliers. Those are the sort of 4 categories that I'd suggest use this.
Is there a unique ID that survives passport renewal, or like every time you renew your passport, you're going to have to reset your...
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, you get a new passport number every time you get. It's every 10 years typically you have a passport. So.
There's no other ID field data, is there?
No.
Obviously, you can use name, but that might change too. It depends on the passport.
Yeah, it's name and date of birth. So I'm going to have to cut this now, but just to summarise, and yeah, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, this is possible now. It can solve problems that are happening now, and it is delivering returns. I really want this to happen urgently. Reason being, I'm going back to the Alps in a month's time. There's a high risk my phone isn't going to survive that. But it isn't about my urgent need. There is one question that you want to take away from this and answer this, okay? Do deepfakes have chips in their fake IDs? And I'm very curious to see if the conference note-taking program will have an answer for this. I think you all know the answer to this. So with that, thank you very much.